This is The Civil Fleet, the podcast focused on the activist-led refugee rescue and support missions across Fortress Europe, with me, Ben Coles. In today's episode, we are going to focus on the mistreatment of refugees and migrants and people on the move in Tunisia. We're going to speak with Jihed, who is a Tunisian activist with Alarm Phone and the refugee rescue organisation Louise. Check out older episodes if you want to know more about Alarm Phone and the Louise. But Jihed is going to talk to us today about the Tunisian president, Kais Saied's racist speech and far-right conspiracy theories that he's been spouting, and how this has affected people on the move, refugees and migrants in Tunisia. He's also going to talk to us about the Tunisian revolution, which is sometimes referred to as the Arab Spring, and how Kais Saied's government has not only oppressed migrants, refugees and people on the move, but also Tunisians. So once again, before we get into today's episode, I'd like to remind you that The Civil Fleet is not just a podcast, it's also a news blog with investigative stories, interviews and news reports there. I haven't done anything for a while on the website because I've been too busy with life and work, but hopefully I'll get back into the swing of things with the blog quite soon. But anyway, it's still worth checking out, thecivilfleet.com. Also, if you like what the Civil Fleet is doing and you want to help us to continue to platform the activists, the refugees, the journalists, the lawyers, the commentators, all the different people that we've had on this podcast, then you can do so by making a really small donation, or a larger one if you like. You can go to ko-fi.com/civilfleet. That's ko-fi.com/civilfleet, and you can make a donation there. Or you can make a monthly donation like my mum has, which is pretty cool. Anyway, what else do I need to tell you? Oh yeah, if you don't or you can't support the Civil Fleet with donations, that's cool. You can also share us around on social media. I'm trying to set up a new account on Blue Sky because it looks like Elon Musk is going to turn Twitter into a bit of a fascist hellhole, but we'll see how that goes. But anyway, you can share us around on different social media, tell your friends about the podcast, give us a rating and a review, and that will really help. Right, that's enough from me. Let's get on to the interview with Jihed. Jihed, thank you very much for coming on the Civil Fleet podcast.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
So Jihed, we're going to talk today about Tunisia and what's been happening in Tunisia. Quite often on the Civil Fleet podcast, we focused on Europe. It's good to talk about Tunisia because there's a big situation there which is impacting Europe. So before we start talking about Tunisia, Jihed, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and about your background?
Okay, let's say a Tunisian activist that I think before the Tunisian revolution 2011, I was basically focusing in monitoring and documentation of the police brutality in Tunisia. We had this dictator Ben Ali, which was like a police regime, and basically I was involved in documentation of police brutality and Tunisian police brutality, and active also with the cyber activist network called Takriz, which basically was working about the freedom to access internet. Yes, I remember it was 2008, we were organizing a demonstration to access YouTube. It's crazy. Yes. Then after Tunisian revolution, 2011, there was like the Libyan revolution. I still call it the Libyan revolution. And during this time that we had a lot of refugees who flee from Libya, and they came to south of Tunisia. So I found myself collecting donation, and then this time I discovered like refugee camps, struggle by like that refugees face. And I was kind of involved in logistics, but also in support and also in documentation of some stories, because people who were in the camp, they were asking if possible to document their story. Then slowly, I discovered the struggles by people of the move. I mean, also I came from a neighborhood of Tunisia where a lot of people just take boats. And for me, it was like, I really don't know someone who take visa or apply for visa and get approved. I know just people who were taking boats. And for me, this was the normal things. Like, you cannot access visa, you find your way. And a lot of people that I know also died in shipwrecks, which was for me also at some point, I didn't realize this, that borders were responsible for the shipwrecks. I was always thinking that maybe it's coming from us because we try to choose this dangerous routes. But then with growing also, I discovered this border violence and how it's impossible to access visa regime or this visa system. And personally, I got also refused because also I in my other life, like in my background, I am a researcher on bioprotection of plants and environment, and I get refused visa 5 times from the United States. Basically, the university gave me scholarship and a visa invitation in Florida, in the USA, and they pay for the visa fees. Then I go to apply for visa, and they just refuse and tell you, okay, can you apply next time? That I got like 5 times this refusal. And with this also develop on me like this trying to support people on the move in Tunisia, and try to, for example, develop some legal info session. And this is also lead me to discover Alarm Phone 2017, where also I was fascinated by this network and how the people try to give space to people on the move to express themselves. Then I continue in this, like trying to support people on the move in Tunisia and doing like info session in refugee camps in south of Tunisia. And basically this is also led also that I wanted to let's say to support more and give more. And this is also give me like the chance to know the project like I'm involved on now, like Louise Michel, so the Mervant like search and rescue ship Louise Michel, where basically I'm supporting also there. And this is also led that I discovered that this externalization of European border regime, so every time you try to give more you discover more. And then I'm working also in supporting some research network on documentation of externalization of European border regime in North Africa and also in West Africa. So this is basically the background that I came from.
Yeah, it's an amazing background. Really, like you've done a lot of stuff there. There's so much to talk about. I can't believe it's really sad that the visa was rejected 5 times from the United States. I hear that happens a lot. A friend of mine actually had that happen. She was South Korean, and her visa was refused because they assumed she wanted to claim asylum. It's really shitty. And then the Tunisian revolution, that must have been. Were you there for the whole of for the revolution and the uprising and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, Tunisian revolution, or sometimes they call that like Arab Spring, or sometimes the Dashmir revolution. And I think it was like, let's see, one of the watershed moment in the contemporary history of the Arab world, and I think in the world. So basically, I mean, for people who forgot, it was like sparked by, let's say, the self-formulation of a street vendor named Mohamed Bouazizi, who was basically protesting against the police corruption, and he burned himself. He set fire. So this tragic event, like, let's see, mobilized a lot of Tunisians to demand economic reforms, social justice, but also democratic governance. And it was like, I grew up in Tunisia, there was a lot of repression. I mean, there was a police state. Basically, I just remember that until now, my mom cannot name the name of the president. There is always this fear, and you fear from your neighbors because maybe your neighbors is working with police or this like Ben Ali system. So there was like a weird atmosphere, but also there was a lot of people who tried to, let's see, doing a lot of things against this police brutality, against this corruption. And with the Tunisian revolution, there was like the end of this path. Like at some point, people was like, enough is enough, and people took the street. There was no more fear. There was like a lot of dreams that we will end this corruption. And there was a lot of, let's see, after even the Tunisian revolution, there was a lot of solidarity with people on the move. Like recently I was thinking, like, because there is now the situation in Sfax and a lot of people like notice it. There was a lot of solidarity after the Tunisian revolution when we had a lot of refugees. We have like nearly 1 million refugees, and there was a lot of solidarity. Like at some point, I still remember that at some point we were asking people that we don't need any more supports in donation of items. We had mountains, and there was like families who like open their houses, cooking for let's see, like 100 people. There was this feeling like of solidarity, and this is also for me, it was inspiring from the Tunisian revolution.
I can't imagine what that situation must have been like. It must have. How did it feel at the time when Ben Ali was ousted?
I was so happy because also I was super, like, I mean, maybe to put it a little bit in the context, I was super active during this Tunisian revolution by mobilization, by also documentation, and also organizing like kind of demonstration. And I like, it was basically on Facebook, so everyone like let's see, most of the mobilization was on Facebook. So at some point, 13 January, I still remember this, 13 January 2011, like everyone, the Ben Ali did a speech that he will do some like he will accept, for example, to open for us internet, some demands, blah blah blah. And I remember in this night, like my mom was like and my father, they were like super like worried. My mom was crying because okay, we had a dream and we will end. Then 14 January, personally, I didn't expect to have like thousands and thousands of Tunisian in all Tunisia on the streets to say no, we don't want anymore. And then Ben Ali he flee from Tunisia. And at this moment, it was one of the happiest moments in my life. Like, I think sometimes that I will not have these moments again, because we have dreams. We had a lot of dreams, and there was a lot of expectations. And we were like, for the first time, we felt like this country is our country. This is not the country of like people, corrupted people. This is for Tunisian, and Tunisia is like, now will be the place that everyone can try to like have a place and everyone can dream. We were like really happy to see that the police at some points cannot control us anymore, cannot control us by fears, and everyone feel this country is like his country because, or her country or their country, because at some point in Tunisia you feel like, okay, you exist there, but these streets are not for you, they are for someone else. And for this time also there was a lot of mobilization. There was also a lot of artists who had the space to express themselves. There was also a lot of movement who came to Tunisia. Like there was a lot of Tunisia became like a Mecca, like a pilgrimage for activists, and there is a lot of space where people in the streets speak politics. I mean, who can speak politics before the revolution? Like no one can write anything. Like if you speak something, they will come to your house and they will annoy you. You cannot access a lot of service. You cannot even get, for example, your scholarship. I mean, but after this, you have this volcano, I don't know how to say, but this volcano of like people who are speaking in the streets, people occupy the public spaces for political debate, like in every corner, in every meter of Tunisia, from north to the south, people were speaking politics, people speak about human rights, people speak about like the new Tunisia, this new like revolution bring hopes. And hope for a better chance, hope that there will be no more corruption, hope that there will be like the police brutality will end, there will be people who can express themselves, there is freedom of expression. Like we didn't know freedom of expression before the revolution, and was super healthy. This dynamics was like, I mean, at some point I was like, and a lot of people was sharing this, that you can dream in Tunisia. You can dream. You can have a dream in Tunisia.
But then I guess that didn't last all too long, right? And now we have, I think I might say his name wrong, but Kais Saied is the current president, right? I don't know. I mean, this is maybe too much, but can you kind of briefly catch us up between then and what's happened now?
I mean, just maybe to put it in context. So what happened in there then and what happens now is basically the contrary. But the problem that, for example, the president Kais Saied is coming from, let's see, like due to the revolution, Kais Saied can be a president. Like if there was no revolution, we will never see Kais Saied as a president or his bubble doing some politics. But the thing that he did, like he came from revolution offered him also a space to speak, because before like 2011 I never heard about Kais Saied. Then due to the revolution, like he had the space where he go to universities, where he was invited and he speak about constitution. He was like critical against a lot of things, but also, hey, thanks to the revolution you can speak in media and do like can share your critique against the constitution. But what he did, like after he came in, also because he was elected and was like, let's see, an election who won like without political party. Kais Saied don't have a political party, and this is something also interesting. Like, thanks to the revolution, you had the space, you can speak, you can go to university, you can go to public space, you can go to public media and express yourself. Then after revolution, you were like, due to the revolution, you were like elected as a president. Then what he did after 1 year, like in July 2021, I think after 2 years, then he invoked this constitutional clause to assume executive control and basically suspending the parliament, and it was basically a power grab. So, and this putting the country under a state of emergency mean like he put the country under his control. And it's really sad to see now people in Tunisia, because they did a tweet or like the Facebook post, they risk like they were detained for 5 years. Like we have cases of someone who criticized Saied just on Facebook, he get 5 years of detention. Like it's crazy. After all this like freedom of expression that we had thanks to the Tunisian revolution, now if you criticize Saied, you get 5 years. And for example, personally now, if I don't know, this podcast can put me also in danger, because as I'm criticizing Saied, I'm doing openly, like, so you see, I mean, usually before I thought that this area of fear or to filter your words so you don't make the authority angry was end, but thanks to Saied, now we are in this situation. So if you critique him or his bubble or his like politics, or he will just there is a risk of criminalization, because they have also this article 64 that if you critique like the government or like the state, you risk jail. So we have a new kind of terrorism. And I think also something that they fail to understand, that you cannot stop freedom of expression or freedom of speech. You cannot like stop people from seeking their rights. And even with this state of emergency, there is a lot of networks in Tunisia and outside of Tunisia who are still fighting for freedom of expression. And even they close this, let's see, the national media, and there is a lot of restriction of, for example, public gathering. For example, Tunisia, after revolution, it's easy to organize a demonstration. Before revolution, it's impossible. Then it's easy, but now with Kais Saied, you cannot organize a demonstration. And if you organize a demonstration, you risk like jail. So this is how is the new Tunisia, like no democracy at more. And Kais Saied is keeping always attacking democracy. So for him, like the problem of the economical crisis, because there is a big economical crisis in Tunis, there is a lot of items who are absent, there is no rice, there is no sugar, there is no coffee, there is no bread, so there is a lot of like this economical crisis. And for Kais Saied, the problem of this economical crisis is democracy. He's attacking always democracy. Then there is always a conspiration against Tunisia, and there is blah blah blah. And with this conspiration theory that they have, he also continued to do more repression, and there is now atmosphere of fears. A lot of people in Tunisia now that usually was super active before, they say, no, I don't want to speak politics. So this is the situation after Kais Saied.
Yeah, that's really sad. It's really sad to hear that you had this moment of freedom and where you could talk, people talking on the streets, and there was lots of politics and freedom of expression and stuff, and now you're back to where you were before, kind of. It's really sad to hear. And Kais Saied, he's recently started to turn his attack. He started to attack refugees, right? And started to attack refugees and people on the move. And he started to say some kind of things that sound like far-right conspiracy theories to me. Like he said that sub-Saharan Africans are coming to the country to take it away from an Islamic nation and turn it into a sub-Saharan nation or something. Can you sort of talk about what did he say and what the reaction was after that?
Yeah, so basically he did this racist speech, basically similar rhetoric to European, let's see, far-right conspiracy theory that sub-Saharians are coming to Tunisia to change the religion of Tunisia, basically, and it's a threat to, let's see, Muslim community in Tunisia. Like I think 90% Tunisia are Muslims. So he came with this, and I think also we have maybe to put it a little bit in the context. So Kais Saied is a populist, right? So, and populists and dictators are they need always an enemy, for their propaganda. So he started with the Islamist, like Nahda political party, and then the democracy, that was the enemy at some months. Then after this, it was like, I think, human rights organization, NGO, they were like the enemy. Then in last February, it was like people on the move and the sub-Saharan. So this is what the enemy. Tunisia was facing a big economical crisis. There was, as I said, a lot of essential items missing. And Kais Saied did his speech, like his racist speech, that there is a hidden plan, a hidden conspiracy against Tunisian Arab Muslim identity, and there is a lot of sub-Saharians who are coming to Tunisia just to achieve this plan, which also is crazy because he spoke about 1 million refugees. I think we don't have at all these numbers. We don't have at all these numbers, and he creates this enemy of the sub-Saharians invasion of Tunisia for a hidden conspiracy. The reaction was like divided in two. There is a lot of people who support this theory, and they were attacking sub-Saharians, and they were like, okay, you have to leave our cities, our village, because you are coming for a conspiration. And there was really very some sub-Saharan France, they were chasing, also some Tunisian who are let's see, from dark skin or black skin, they were they are Tunisian, and police arrest them because they were black. So it was crazy, and people was listen, I'm Tunisian, I have an identity card. Or someone was I forget my identity card, so the police told him oh no, you learned to speak Tunisian. So there is this mobilization against sub-Saharians, and there was a lot of attack, there was a lot of control by police, and there is a lot of people who were asked to leave their houses. And in this also because there is kind of new propaganda of new law that if you run to an illegal migrant, basically sub-Saharan, you can risk 5 years of jail. So at some point, also people who rent their house were super afraid that they will be attacked by the neighbors, but also by police, and they faced 5 years of jails, or because they ran to someone who considered an enemy now. But in the other hand, there was a lot of mobilization of the civil society activists and also normal people who were this president is crazy and would like to support people on the move. And they opened their house, they hid people, they tried to organize also safe, let's see, travel for people. So some people who were in Tunis, they managed to some people also transfer them to other city where there was less violence against them. So, and civil society also organized a big demonstration to say Tunisia is Africa. And like, because before Tunisia, the name is Ifriqiya. So if at some point Tunisia gave the name to the continent. So I don't know how to say this in history, but the name of Tunisia is Ifriqiya, which means Africa. And we have deep connection to it's really strange to hear this racist speech from Tunisian, because at some point also historically all like the colonial independent movement was based in Tunisia. So after the independence of Tunisia was always the place where like Africa, let's see, or African country gets support, or like I don't know how to explain this. This is a place like Tunisia. It's like, let's say, kind of heart of Africa, because also it was always a place where independent movement came to Tunisia, and they were like, let's see, the base there. So hearing about this speech was also shocking for a lot of Tunisia after all this history of like supporting let's see, movement, or like from a lot of African countries. Now we have this discussing speech and racist speech, which was also shocking for a lot of people, a lot of Tunisian, but also a lot of, let's see, these people who some Tunisian believe it is propaganda, and there was a lot of attacks against sub-Saharians.
Yeah, that's really sad. It's really crazy. This kind of thing happens, in Europe as well, right? You get a far right leader who says something, and then it ends up influencing other people, and they attack refugees or migrants, people on the move. It's really sad, and like it's sad to hear that Tunisia often saw itself as a part of Africa, and now it maybe because of Kais Saied's speech, some people think we're different, and so. I think I've seen a lot of posts on social media, some from you and some from other people that are that report on or are in Tunisia, and they've been like, can you talk a bit about, like, I think I've seen people that have been criminalized because they have life jackets in Tunisia, or like I think the Red Crescent maybe has been under pressure to stop distributing stop distributing aid and this kind of thing. Can you talk about, like, has there been any attacks or oppression on the solidarity work?
I mean, also if we go, for example, from last update from, for example, Sfax, where like the Red Crescent was like, they were asked to not support people there, to not go give any items to people, and this is also going from this new strategy by like the Tunisian, like, let's say, interior ministry, that they would like to breathe, they use this expression, to breathe Sfax, because in the center of Sfax there is a lot of sub-Saharians, a lot of people, let's see, people on the move, and a lot of migrants and refugees who were there in the center, so in the downtown of Sfax. So there was this new strategy to breathe Sfax. They used this term, breathe Sfax, and one of the things that they would like to say, like to use the strategy, that they don't want, first they refused any external actor to support, like NGO or like Human Rights Watch or FTDS, like any organization was not allowed to support there. Then, and the only thing that, like, the only actor that Tunisia say they can support was the Red Crescent. This is because for Kais Saied also decided this, that the solution or the support should come only from Tunisia. So Tunisia Red Crescent should support. Then they said, no, Tunisia Red Cross, you cannot help people in Sfax because we would like to breathe Sfax. And the strategy is like to move people out of Sfax and to move them, like, for example, to create conditions that people would like to leave, because they cannot access food, they cannot access water, you cannot access anything. So you would like to change your place. And also then, I mean, they didn't stop in this, because I think the updates this before 2 days, they did this propaganda of this, like, inviting the terrorism, like the unity against terrorism, which is like used usually when Tunisia has a terrorism attack. a terrorist attack. So they bring them with airplanes and helicopter to take off people from and to transfer people. It was more for propaganda, no? Because you see people who jumping from helicopters, like this Hollywood way of propaganda to see that Tunisian authorities are moving people out of Sfax. But also, just to answer again your questions, like solidarity networks are struggling to support people. We are not allowed. We are not. For example, last time when we had some people who were stuck between Libya and Tunisia, Libya and Tunisian borders, we were there, would like to support, but we are not allowed to access the zone because they said this is a military zone. You cannot access it. And they block you from supporting people. I mean, we managed to find some, let's say, some local people who were there, who live there, and they were always happy to support. I mean, it's really sad to say you are doing a lot of effort just to offer water or food. It's super sad. This is how we it's limited, but also even this limited capacities, just to offer someone water, you have to struggle and you have to find a way, and people are afraid to transfer water because this is maybe can make authority angry. So it's crazy. It's totally crazy to have this situation. And back also to this criminalization, I mean, also one of the strategy, if they would like to manage this management of borders, or it's making the journey more dangerous. So in Tunisia, for example, you cannot have Thoraya phone. So Thoraya phone, which basically used in the Libyan context departure. So people, when they depart from Libya, they take Thoraya phone, where usually they contact authorities or alarm phone or any actors to send their position, because with Thoraya you can have a position and you can send your position to authority and say we are in distress, we are in this position, and we have give information to people. In Tunisia you cannot have Thoraya phone, and not only because it's not expensive, this satellite mobile, but it's so dangerous. If you have a Thoraya phone, you will be directly linked to terrorism. I don't know why, but this is the law. So you cannot send your position. Okay, you would like to have life jacket. First of all, life jacket in Tunisia is so expensive, but also if you find someone who sell life jackets, you are a smuggler, and you are it's too risky to sell life jacket. But also if you have life jacket in your place or in your house, this is you are taking a boat, or you are organizing travel for sub-Saharians or Tunisian, or having life jacket, it's a problem. So people at some point have to find this life jacket, hide it, or don't take it, because if they intercept you before on land with a life jacket, this is a big problem. So this strategy of making dangerous, and also they would, I think at some point one of the strategy was, okay, let shipwrecks happen so people will be afraid and they will not take boats. No, it's impossible. You cannot stop people from moving, because Tunisia is not safe for Tunisia is not safe for Sub-Saharan, Tunisia is not safe. So people will leave even you attack them. Then one of the things also, getting engine is complicated. So always there is a struggle and to get engine in Tunisia, and there is also people are afraid to have engine in their I don't know, in the port. But also sometimes what is I really don't understand is this life jacket story, because people will leave, and you know that people will leave. At least it's their choice. So make it safe as possible. Not try to make it as dangerous as possible. So when shipwrecks will happen, people will be afraid. This is the strategy that we are facing now in Tunisia.
Yeah, that's that's really, really crazy. But you mentioned people are afraid to give water to people on the move. That's happening in Europe too, right? I've interviewed people or activists who work in Greece or have worked in Greece, and they said you can't help people on the move there. You can't give them a glass of water or clothes or anything, because you could be accused of being a people smuggler. And I think it's the same in many places in Eastern Europe. So it's really, I can't believe it's happening there too. That's really sad to hear. And you mentioned the border. Like I saw a video, I think it was probably, you may have shared it as well, of like a helicopter that was flying really low over people. I'm not sure where they were. I don't know where they was, but there was like a government helicopter flying really low above people on the move. It was trying to frighten them. What was happening there, or have you got any more examples of this kind of oppression happening to like that?
Yes, there was like several. I mean, this was documented because also sometimes people, they cannot access, they took their phones, you know, they took their phones, they took their money, they took their passport, anything, they took everything. So it's like, for that, sometimes when people speak about interceptions or pushbacks, I really don't like these terms, because it's not only this. Because people think that okay, they take people from a car, they put them in the bus, then they took them to other place. No, people get bitten. People don't know where they are taken, and sometimes we don't know where they take people. For this situation, it was in this olives, camp, olive fields, and they were like basically people who were transferred from Sfax to this place. And we have two versions, because also I reached Tunisian authorities about this. So basically what Tunisian authorities said, that people were angry and they wanted to set fire on the police, car. So this, I don't know, this helicopter intervened to make people afraid and ran, because they wanted to rescue their friends. This is the Tunisian like version of things. But what people who were there told me, that there was no car of the police. They didn't accept that. Basically, they were transferred from them Sfax to nowhere. There was no water, there was nothing, and people were like, we don't want to go there. And they wanted to go back to place where they can get water. So the main demand was for water. And because you bring us here in 50 degree, like it's too hot, we cannot drink, and we would like to drink. So we'll move there. So move back to a place to get water, which means like to the city or something like. And because it was between Sfax and Mahdiya, so they wanted to go to first village, but Tunisian authority refused this, and they used this helicopter to make people afraid. Sometimes people were like reported also that they were beaten. Sometimes they were like just like they were left in places like where like for hours and hours in the car of the police, then they leave them. So you stay, basically this technique also they used so much against Tunisians. So they take you and you stay in the car for like 14, 17, 18 hours. Then they leave you in a place where you don't know where I am. So there is a lot of report of this. And especially if you are in a place you don't know, you don't have internet, or you don't have like phone, you don't know where are you, and you are, after like having experience with Tunisian police and police brutality, will be completely confused. So people have a lot of trauma, I guess, like developing from this treatment. But also there is a lot of session of brutality, especially in the sea, and this pushback or this border violence, where a lot of people try to document, then they took their phones. And if they took your phones because you are documenting, also you will get special treatment, because you are someone who would like to resist by taking phones, like photos or video. So a lot of people were afraid to do documentation, because they know if they discovered them, it will be a big problem.
Yeah, and some of this kind of, I remember hearing about people being left in a car in the middle of nowhere in the heat. That happens in Eastern Europe as well. I've heard about that. It's really crazy. So I think, we could keep talking. There's so many things that have happened to people in Tunisia, and I think are people being pushed from Libya to Tunisia and from Tunisia back to Libya as well, as there being these kind of forced border crossings as well.
Yes, we had this situation at some point also, because there is a problem between, let's see, the two governments, like Tunisian government and the Tripoli government. So at some point also the Libyan authorities also tried to have like this, okay, look what's happening in Tunisia, because everyone speak about the hell of Libya, but they don't speak about the hell of Tunisia. And I don't know, Libyan authorities, like Tripoli authorities, they start to bring people and to push them to go to Tunisia. And Tunisian also adopted this strategy. Okay, you have to go back to Libya. So there is people who are between the two borders. And at the end, there was like this decision that, for example, Tripoli will take like 300 and Tunis will take 300. That also, this is a big question because honestly, I don't know where are these 300 people, where they took them. And this is something also sometimes it need a lot of investigation because usually people arrive and get intercepted, pushbacks or anything like something similar, but they just disappear later. We cannot have information about them. So honestly, I don't know where they took the 300 person. Like they said, Tunisia will take it, and I don't know. Maybe they bring them to Algerian borders because also this is another part of the game. So sometimes people are transferred to Tunisia and Libyan borders, but also we have a lot of cases where people were transferred or pushed back to Algeria. So basically they took them from Tunis or from Sfax and they put them in the Algerian-Tunisian borders. And Algerian also authorities are not let's say they are super violent against people. So people get both side of let's see, get violence or get like a lot of violence from both sides of the border.
Yeah, that's really fucked up. And can you, I mean, because obviously a lot of the problems here is being caused by Europe's borders, and I think recently Italy has had some sort of agreement with Tunisia. It also has one with Libya to try and, I think that Italy or the European Union will send money to the Tunisian government and Libyan governments, and then expect them to stop people coming over to Europe. Can you sort of talk about how Europe's border is affecting Tunisia?
I think also it's, for me, it's always when the people ask me about European borders, I feel strange to tell people, for example, the European borders start, for example, from Lampedusa for a Tunisian. European borders are inside Tunisia. So, for example, there is this Carcana, an island that usually it's close to Italy, and it's Tunisian land, but you cannot access it. They don't let you, if you are a Tunisian, coming from certain background, or they will not let you access this place. So we investigate this, why we are not denied to go to this beautiful island. I mean, sometimes people just want to go to swim in an island. It's beautiful and it's really a beautiful place. And I had the several experience that they never let me take the ferry because he just take my identity card and see, you are not from this area, so maybe you will take a boat. Don't take the ferry. You are not allowed to take the ferry. So, and this is, for me, it was crazy because I feel like there is a lot of places in Tunisia I cannot access because they said maybe you will take a boat. And then you investigate, you find this is coming from European, let's see, sponsorship, because Tunisia don't get, for example, we didn't, during 2020, were one of the country who struggled to get the vaccine against the COVID. So we didn't get, we waited so much to get vaccination. But in same times, Europe offered us a lot of drones to monitor the borders. They offered us a lot of cars. We got 2 or 3 fast boats from United States, but we didn't get vaccine. We were hey people, we need vaccine. This country need really to get vaccines. We need Pfizer. We need something. We need AstraZeneca. But no, we got cars. We got a lot of also drones. We got I think a helicopter for monitoring the border, the sea, the border, sea border. Sorry. Yeah, so it was something the sponsorship of Europe for Minister of Interior is there is a lot of huge numbers, and sometimes they don't speak about it, but also they show what they got. Recently we got, I think, 20 or 30 let's see, this Land Rover or these fancy cars. So, and yeah, but also, for example, what we need, for example, now is facts. We need the morgue. We need where to put death. We need bag for death. This is really what Tunisia, it's sad to say it, but this is what Tunisia need now. So, And instead of sponsoring this border violence, because for me they sponsor Europe, they sponsor the border violence in Tunisia. Because if someone is doing a lot of, and you know that Tunisian, let's see, Garde Nationale, there is a lot of stories, there is a lot of testimonies, there is a lot of videos how they do pushbacks, how are the violence, how, and you give them more. So this is like something crazy. And also what's still also not clear for us, this like the work between Tunisian authorities and Frontex, because they say we don't work with Tunisian say we don't work with Frontex, but they meet always. Like they have these regular meetings, and Frontex officers, they are always coming to Tunis. And now recently we have also some Italian, let's see, big officers who came to Sfax, who checked the port of Sfax, because for Italy Sfax is the problem. So they came there, and they are like now speaking about maybe having let's see, an office for Italian authorities in Sfax, so they will control this or monitor better the situation in Sfax. So, and I mean, control or like monitoring are words that they use to say, for me, it's like when you have control, you have violence.
Absolutely, yeah. That seems like something that could probably happen, having Italian or Frontex offices on parts of Tunisia, right? That's really terrible. I'll just say for people listening who don't know what Frontex is, it's the European Border and Coast Guard Agency, and they have a very checkered past. So I think I feel like there's so much I could talk about Jihed, and there's so many different ways we can go. But in the interest of time, I should ask him only a couple more questions.
Sorry to interrupt you. Maybe also I want to mention this point because it's kind of linked to the externalization of borders.
Yes, please do.
So basically, before years, we were speaking always about when we describe people who go to like take boats. We in Tunisian media we use this term haraga, like basically people who burn the borders. So this is the term that we use it in every media and radio, like TV. So this is haraga is a beautiful word because at the end, people who take boats, they burn these borders. But recently there was a lot of changes, and we start to speak about illegal migrants. I never used this word. I never heard this word before. Then I was thinking at some point that also the externalization of border regime is not only on like having like drones or sponsoring like border violence, but also the language that we use. They changed our language. Like this is, I mean, maybe some people don't notice this, but I find this is super important because at some point they use this illegal migrants, illegal people, which never used before. So they touch our language. They change the word that we use, and this is important because if language is so important because it shapes the story that we are telling about people. If you use haraga, someone who burned borders, politically like super correct, but if you use illegal migrant is something also you can, okay, they are some illegal, so there is a difference. Just to mention that also externalization influenced our language.
Yeah, that's an important point because it obviously happens in English all the time. Like the terms that we use to describe these people affect how people think about them. I don't know if you know, but like in the UK, quite often just the word migrant has like for some people has a bad connotation. It has a bad meaning. So like if you describe someone as a migrant, it can feel like it shouldn't, but it can feel like the wrong word to use. So I often try to avoid using it. It's really strange. You mentioned at the beginning of the show that you are also an activist with Alarm Phone and Louise Michel. I think the Louise Michel, as of today is September the 21st. I think the Louise Michel is heading to the rescue zone, right? It's heading out to the search and rescue zone in the Mediterranean.
Yeah, I think, I mean, Louise Michel were going yesterday to operational, like area of operation, and we had to rescue, and now we are heading to disembark in Pozzallo. They assigned us to Pozzallo. I think in this moment, they are now, the disembarkation are going on.
So they've rescued people already, the Louise Michel. Hopefully that's gone well and not been too difficult. And you're also involved with Alarm Phone as well, right?
Yes, I'm involved with Alarm Phone, but also it's fair to say I'm also involved with Maldusa, the new project in Lampedusa. So it's... Yes, but also I'm involved in Alarm Phone, and it was one of the, let's say, the first transnational networks that I was involved in. So...
Yeah, we have some episodes on Alarm Phone. So if people want to find out more about Alarm Phone, they can check old episodes. But do you also work at Alarm Phone Sahara as well?
I'm connected to people with Alarm Phone Sahara. So sometimes we have some working together, especially going to like for documentation of, for example, what's going on in Niger and the new, for example, externalization of European borders there, because European borders exist there between Agadez, for example, where they have a lot of drones, or where there is a lot of Frontex officers in the, let's see, before in the airport. It's so kind of this support or documentation, or sometimes also just doing translation in their meeting. But also I feel connected so much to this Alarm Phone Sahara.
Yeah, I'd like to talk to Alarm Phone Sahara. I've been trying to talk to someone, but I need a translator, and that's being difficult at the moment to find one. So, Jihed, this is my last question. So my last question is how are you feeling about the future and about the situation in Tunisia and in Europe? What are your thoughts on the future?
Yeah, I mean, like last week I was in Ventimiglia. And I was kind of supporting people there also because I was basically crossing from Ventimiglia to Marseille. Also, I have some paper struggles, and I mean also sometimes it's complicated to say it, because also sometimes when people ask you about borders, I really stop to answer like how is my situation in Europe, because I feel like I'm navigating a world that designed to limit you. So there is always bureaucratic, like, let's say, struggles. And I was in Ventimiglia, and I met someone like, I think he was from Senegal, and he had like also a long, like 3 or 4 time pushback in Libya with a lot of story of detention centers. And it's really crazy what he had. And at some point we had this talk, like this question, how you feel? And I was really super depressed, because also it's really hard to survive in Europe sometimes. Even I believe I'm super privileged, because at the end I'm connected with nice project, I have support of nice people, and I really feel privileged. Even I have a lot of really struggle for papers, and I was depressed about the situation. I was depressed what's going on in Lampedusa, and you see the militarization of the border between France and Italy, and I was like, it's crazy, it's insane. We are in a world where people who ask for asylum get deported. Like, it's super crazy, and we see the end of asylums. Like, people cannot ask asylum. It's really super sad to have this. But this person told me, but you are an activist. I said, yes. So I answered me, activist, your first role is to give hope to people. So your work is not to just do these things. Your work is to give hope. And for that, I was thinking situation is like, is crazy. But also I feel like there is a lot of people, even with small capacity, they are fighting against this border regime, against the situation, which I feel like also there is some dark moments are coming, but also there is a lot of solidarity, and I think we will reach to at some point to win this let's say this battle. I don't know. I don't want to go to this vocabulary of war, but also we will win at the end, because freedom of movement will always win, and border regime will always lose. And yeah, and solidarity will always win. This is something that clearly I believe on. And after this, like this discussion with my friend in Media, I think I should, and other activists should, give hope to people, because I think we will manage. And yeah, freedom of movement will always win. I'm convinced of this.
Well, thanks. That was a great answer, Jihed. I really like that. Solidarity will always win, and activists have to give hope. I like those. Are great points. So I feel like I could ask you so much more. I'd really like to talk longer, but I have to go. I have to start work now. So thank you so much for your time, Jihed. That was a really, really good interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, that was episode 48 of the Civil Fleet podcast. Thanks again to Jihed for coming on the Civil Fleet and talking to us. It was a really great interview. I really enjoyed interviewing him, and hopefully we'll have him back on the podcast in the future. Well, hopefully not, because hopefully the situation will be gone, but I doubt it. Yeah, if you'd like to know more about him and about Alarm Phone or Louise Michel, then do check out the show notes. I'll have links to those organisations in the previous episodes of the podcast when we've had people from those organisations on. Check out thecivilfleet.com. Haven't updated it, like I said before, but hopefully I'll get back into the things there when my life calms down a little bit. What else do we have to say? Yes, if you'd like to donate, if you'd like to help us out, help us to cover the costs of platforming the amazing people that we do on here, then you can make a donation at ko-fi.com/civilfleet. That's ko-fi.com/civilfleet. Our costs are really low, but any support that you can give us would be greatly appreciated. Do share the podcast around on social media if you like. That'll really help us. You can leave a review on podcast apps and these kind of things, or write a comment on my YouTube channel if you're watching this or listening to this on there. Yeah, I think that's it. We should have another episode coming out pretty soon. I'm scheduled to interview someone tomorrow as I'm recording this. So yeah, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.